Hello and welcome. Welcome to episode 45 of the Little Likac podcast. This is kind of a vlogmas episode. Every week in December, instead of fortnightly, I've been filming my podcast once a week through December to share with you my Advent projects and what I've been getting up to through December. But this week has been a little bit of a disaster. So instead of showing you very much that I've worked on this week, it's going to be much more of a WIP parade. So welcome to my channel. My name is Amanda. I am coming to you from Derby in the centre of the United Kingdom. Today is December the 18th. It is dark out there already, even though it's only 2 o'clock in the afternoon. It is getting dark and dingy. So I've got some lighting on. So it's December the 18th. This is rubbish, isn't it? It is December the 18th and it is 1 week to go to Christmas, and I had a few things left to finish knitting before Christmas, but this has kind of put a fairly major downer on that happening. So before I go any further, let me explain what this is. Thank you. I did put on Instagram on a story in the middle of the week a picture of my fingers when they were wrapped up actually in the hospital bandages, and kind of went, oh no. And I suppose I meant to then update it and sort of explain what had happened. And quite a few people messaged me, which was really kind of them to say, oh my goodness, what have you done? So to cut a long story short, I sort of burnt them. But seeing as it's a podcast, I will tell you a little bit more detail of what I did. If you are not interested in how I hurt my fingers, or if you're a bit squeamish, not that I'm going to show you anything, but if you're a bit squeamish, don't like talking about anything like that, I would say fast forward a couple of minutes. So yes, what did I do? So on Wednesday morning, let's go back a bit further. I got a new car about 2 weeks ago. So excited. This is a brand new car. I ordered it back in January and I was so excited because it was I was supposed to get it in August, then September, then October, and I actually got it at the end of November. Yeah, literally just a couple of days before the end of November. My new car was finally ready, and the car that I've got is a Dacia. And I had a Dacia last time. My last car was a Dacia, and I think they are amazing value for money. Before I had a Dacia, I was never would have even thought about buying a car brand new, but for value for money, Dacias are brilliant. Anyway, what I was really excited about with this new car was it takes 2 different types of fuel. You can use unleaded petrol in it, or you could also use something called LPG gas. And if you don't know about LPG gas, I've never heard of it before. LPG gas is about half the price of normal fuel, and although you can't get quite so many miles to the gallon, it still works out far cheaper. It is slightly better environmentally as well, but the downsides to it is it's not available in very many places, and where I live there is one place within a couple of miles of me though that does sell LPG gas. So when Tuesday evening I went to fill up with LPG gas, but the pump that it's at isn't like a 24-hour pump, and the kiosk was closed. So I had to go Wednesday morning before I went to school. The plan was that I would go early in the morning, be at the petrol station at 7 o'clock in the morning, which I was. It was -7 degrees, which is very cold for the UK. That's -7 Celsius. I'm not sure what that is in Fahrenheit, but well below freezing. Or certainly for the UK, we don't get temperatures much below that in this part of the UK. So it was very cold, and to fill up with LPG gas, it's a little bit different to normal petrol, and obviously it was only the 3rd time I'd done it, and I basically had problems doing it. And I had my hand fairly constantly on this metal part of the pump that I was trying to mess around with, and basically I got myself into a bit of a panic because I felt like I couldn't do it. And you know, sometimes when you're in a rush and then everything feels like it's going wrong, I got myself all flustered, and the nozzle of this pump was cold anyway because it was -7 degrees, and because I was having problems, I held onto the nozzle rather than holding onto just the handle. I was constantly holding onto the nozzle, and LPG fuel is is stored at a very cold temperature as well. So I think it was a combination of the cold on the outside and the cold of the fuel inside, and me holding on to this nozzle, which you're not supposed to do. So it was my fault. I basically froze part of my finger and part of my thumb. But I didn't realise I'd done it because it was so cold. I just thought my fingers were cold, and that was another problem because my fingers were cold. I think that was another reason why I was finding it difficult to do what I needed to do. Anyway, didn't realise I'd done it straight away. Just knew that they were cold and it had gone white. So I was like, oh, that's. But as I drove then to work, and my hand was warming up. Obviously, they were defrosting. And by the time I got to work, I was in a lot of pain. So I did go up to the hospital and they treated them as burns. Luckily, they did say they thought they were superficial, that they were just skin, not tissue damage. And they wrapped them up in fairly big bandages. Luckily, this is not my writing hand or anything like that. So what's been the knock-on effect? I cannot possibly knit anything that's on small needles, small stitches, socks, anything like that. Anything which takes a little bit of manipulation with that hand as well. No chance. Also, I knew fairly early on that I would be able to kind of hold slightly thicker knitting needles and possibly knit something that was relatively straightforward, wasn't going to involve anything too complicated. But I could also tell that I was potentially going to be knitting at a slightly different gauge. So I thought, I don't want to carry on working on any projects that I've already started, because if the gauge or tension is different, then that's going to throw them off. So let me show you what I have worked on this week. I realised I could crochet. I did realise I could crochet, so I have done more on one of my crochet blankets, which I haven't brought down actually, but it's just my granny stripe blanket, which you've seen quite a few times. So let me show you what I have worked on, or one of the things that I was working on before this happened was I was working on Louise the Owl, which is a Christmas present for my great niece. And I already knew that I was going to struggle to get this finished and posted and to arrive on time. So I was already kind of thinking this is likely to be late arriving. When you saw this last week, I had split for the legs on these trousers, and I had Tuesday evening I had almost finished one leg of the trousers for Louise, and excuse me. So I haven't carried on knitting on these because I feel like, well, one, also knitting on cotton takes it's a bit harder work, a little bit more effort on your fingers to try and stop it from potentially laddering too much on DPN. So I just thought, right, no, that's a no-go, no more work on that. So I contacted Hannah, Bryony's mum, and explained the situation, and I said, look, I was already worried that it was possibly going to be late, but now I actually think it's going to be January, maybe even the end of January before you get it, because I'm going to need to wait for my fingers to heal completely, I think, before I can finish working on that. So equally, like things like sewing, I don't think I'm going to be able to stitch, really do any sort of proper sewing things up very easily at the moment either. So that is definitely all on hold now. It's just in a Queen's Jubilee tote bag. So that project is absolutely on hold. I don't think I'm going to be able to do that really until my fingers are a lot better. But I had got a little bit more done on it. Another project that's definitely going to go on to hold is my mum's fingerless gloves. So again, I had done a bit more work on these, I think, since you saw them last weekend. Yeah, not very much. So yeah, that's where I'd got to. So I had done a little bit more on these, but as I say, I actually tried to I did about a few stitches on these and thought, okay, in theory I can do it, but I could feel that I wasn't knitting them as tightly or and also there's some make ones to do, and just feel that at the moment I don't feel able to knit on those. So I spoke to my mum and said, hey mum, your Christmas present, or one of your Christmas presents you're not going to have. And of course she was totally understanding, and in fact she said to me, You need to rest your hand. Don't do any knitting or crocheting. Don't even try for, and I went, yeah, maybe for a few days. And she was like, maybe for a few weeks. And I was like, yeah, that's not going to happen, Mum, but thanks anyway. And what was the other thing? And of course the other thing was the Advent calendar. Now I've got a little bit behind on this anyway. But again, this is one that I think I will be able to start working on again fairly soon. Because it's ever such soft wool, and it's quite, it's DK, well it's fingering weight wool, but I'm holding it double for DK weight, so I'm hoping I will be able to knit on this again quite soon. So not sure where you saw up to last week. Maybe I haven't done any on it since the weekend. I don't know. I know I got caught up with it, and now I'm so far behind. So let's have a look at how many we've got on here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Only 12, yeah. So I'm so behind on this. This is the Ambah O'Brien Wrap It Real Good. And the Advent calendar I'm using is my own, the Little Likac Nutcracker Advent calendar. So I'm hoping I'll be able to start working on this one again soon, maybe this week. I just feel, actually, with it being slightly thicker needles and thicker yarn, because I'll show you what I have worked on. As I say, the only thing I was concerned about was whether it would be the same gauge, the same tension, but I feel that this is one, because it's not on DPNs either, so I'm not having to pull it particularly tight or anything like that. I think that is one that I might be able to work on this week, as my thumb is healing. It is the thumb that is the worst bit, because the burn is kind of a good inch of my thumb pad, but it's not the very tip, it's like more here. So honestly, so much pain. The hospital were brilliant though, they sorted it for me very quickly. So yes, I've not even opened some of the packets, so because I'm so well behind. So I'd like to get that caught up with a bit, maybe be able to try and work on that again. So what did I do? So I did, like I said, I did some work on my crochet granny stripe blanket, because that I'm hardly having to hold anything in this hand. I do hold my yarn in this hand when I crochet, but I don't hold the garment or anything at all. So I did get some rows done on my granny stripe blanket. And then the other thing that I thought I wanted to try to do was work on a hat for Amelia, my youngest daughter. She suddenly said a couple of weeks ago that she wanted a hat, and I had ordered the yarn, which I talked about on the podcast last weekend. But I knew the thing that was going to be difficult was casting on, because I cast on using the thumb method. And I was like, so even when my thumb feels well enough to actually hold the knitting needles and knit, I'm not going to be able to cast on. So I took the wool and the needles to school with me on Friday, and I've got a colleague who knits, and I went and found her and I said, Rach, please could you cast on 96 stitches for me, which she kindly did. And so she cast on the stitches for me, and I'm using King Cole Merino Blend Double Knit in the colourway Oatmeal, because my daughter asked for beige, and so I'm using the colourway Oatmeal. And the pattern is the Cheering Hat by Helen Stuart. Helen Stuart is the lady behind the knit design company called Curiously Handmade. So it is knitting, look how much I've done, nearly finished it. I'm actually on the decrease rounds now for the crown, so the only thing is that I will have to swap to DPNs for the last 10 rows, which is probably going to be the little bit more painful bit, I think, working on the DPNs, but it's only for about 10 rows. So look at this. And I've got a pom-pom coming, one of those like fur pom-poms to go on the end. So this will be ready for Christmas, yay! Now I don't know if I'm going to podcast maybe on Christmas Eve next week, if I film Christmas Eve. My mum and dad are coming up on Christmas Eve, so if I get a chance to film in the morning I might do it, or I might film an early one on Friday and then just release it over Christmas. So hopefully you'll get to see this before I wrap it up. But really, really pleased with it. It has been a very easy knit, a very quick knit, and just kind of, I was going to say quite easy on my fingers. It's still been a bit painful. It has been a bit painful, but not too bad. It's definitely been manageable, and it's nearly finished, so yay! Obviously last week I was talking about whether I could possibly get socks done for my husband. I'd already kind of slacked that off anyway fairly quickly when I knew that I was running behind on everything else. I thought, well, that's just not going to happen. So one Christmas present still though that will get finished and will be under the tree is Amelia's hat. So not as much knitting that I've been done this week as normal, but what I have been doing is trying to organise and go through all my WIPs, my works in progress, because there are a lot, and even I've brought a lot down with me, and even all of these aren't probably, I could still remember there's a couple of others hidden away in places. But I want to run a make along for the first part of next year, maybe for the whole of next year, a works in progress make along. And it's basically going to be about clearing away, finishing off some works in progress. And my plan is not to say I'm only going to work on works in progress, but I can't cast on a new item until I've cast off an item, and it has to be measure for measure. So I cannot cast on a new pair of socks until I've finished a pair of socks. I cannot cast on a new sweater or cardigan until I've finished a sweater or cardigan. I can't cast on a new blanket until I've finished a blanket. There are a lot of socks. It doesn't mean I've got to finish all the socks before I can cast on a new pair of socks, but it does mean hopefully it will motivate me to get some of these finished. And I am still kind of looking around because there's one pair of socks that I've been working on until recently and I can't find them. Those are my Yarndale socks, and I can't find the bag that they're in, and I can't find the socks. So I really don't know where they are. So I'm kind of looking around because I thought, well, the last time I had them was probably talking about them in a podcast, so maybe they're down here somewhere. I can't see them. Anyway, I'm sure they will turn up in the next couple of weeks while I'm having to tidy up. So I have got this big pile of bags here. Some of these are things that you have seen because I've started them in the last 18 months since I started my podcast. There are a few things here though that are older than that, and therefore you have not seen them before. I'm not going to do them in a specific order, it's just going to be as I grab the bags. Okay, so first bag, actually you only saw this a couple of weeks ago. These were supposed to be my mum's socks for Christmas, and if you remember I had messed up because I had grafted the toe the wrong way round. So this is a pair of socks that I either need to be finished or frogged. I don't think they will be the first pair of socks that I work on, because if you remember I wasn't feeling a great deal of love for them anymore. There are some needles back in there ready for them though. So I've got to make a decision. If I don't work on these in the first sort of 6 months of next year, then I need to frog them and just get rid. So one pair of socks. That's not the only pair of socks. Okay, confession time. In here is a pair of socks I started a very long time ago. I will tell you what, I will look it up on my Ravelry project page now. So I will probably edit out the bit of me spending 5 minutes trying to find it on my project page. So, okay, yeah, so this pair of socks that I'm about to show you was started on February the 16th, 2015. Yeah, 2015. Okay, and this is the first sock, and I can remember getting the this sock yarn as soon as it came out. It was the Regia or Aran and Carlos design, and literally the sort of like the week or within a couple of weeks of this being released in the UK, I had bought this. I bought a couple of different colours, and for some reason I decided to use the specific pattern from Aran and Carlos, although I didn't, because I've just noticed it says with cable detail and I never bothered putting the cabling on it. but I used their heel flap, and it's got a boomerang heel, which is not a heel that I usually use, and by the looks of it, I'm not sure. Okie dokie. Yeah, look at that. It's a bit of a mess. That's probably why these haven't been worked on. So I guess again, I've got two choices. Oh, that's terrible, the way you pick up the stitches. Yeah, but look at that though. I have grafted the toes together though. So anyway, I will do this second sock. So there's one sock completed. Presumably, yeah, there's quite a lot left over. So I will get this second one done, and I will use the pattern that's on here so that they are matching. But I think that's what, and they'll be fine for around the house. But I think that's what put me off, is I didn't like the heel. It's not my usual heel, but anyway, so what? Do the same heel on the second sock so that they do at least match. Get it done, because it is lovely yarn, and look. It's lovely yarn, and I love the way they've knitted up, so I really should get those done. So I might make those quite an early project, as soon as I am up to knitting socks again, because really, apart from the heel, the rest of that will be very straightforward. Okay, second pair of socks. So I said that I was going to run a make along, and then I didn't really give any details about that, did I? So it's going to be called Wipe the Whips. And as I say, we'll run it for 3 months, maybe 6 months. You know, I'm just going to use it as a way of trying to clear as many whips off the needle as I can during the year, and I'd love you guys to join in with me. Anything that has been cast on before the 31st of December will count. Sorry, before the 1st of January. So anything cast on by the 31st of December counts as a whip. So even if you cast it on the 31st of December, it can count as a whip. So I'm very, very tempted, because I've got my rule on you can't cast on a new item till you've cast off one of those items, and I have got everything together for the anthology throw, so I'm so tempted to cast that on by 31st of December, just so that I can be working on it early doors in January. Anyway, more socks. Followers of the podcast for a while, well actually not for that long, you'll have seen this before. I started this, these were my Strictly socks. I started in end of September, I think, October. Absolutely gorgeous. Really lovely yarn. Really loved the pattern, although if you remember, the pattern wasn't knitting up as it showed on the there was a problem with the pattern basically, so I'm not going to link the pattern details for this because I don't want to promote the pattern, because the pattern isn't written properly. The yarn is my own. It was Strictly Sparkle from Little Likac, and I would like to get these finished. I think partly I stopped doing them because I got other things to work on. Also, I stopped watching Strictly this year. I always liked Strictly Come Dancing, but this year I didn't seem to have enough time to watch It Takes Two, which I usually watch during the week, which is the kind of sister programme where you have all the interviews with the contestants, and I always like watching that because you get to know the contestants a bit better. So maybe that's why. Or I just didn't particularly, none of the contestants this year didn't really feel like there was some amazing partnerships, but I just didn't feel attached to any of them particularly. I did hear who won, and I'm quite happy with who won because I did like that person early on in the series. So I think there's the element. I didn't really watch Strictly this year. I had other projects to work on, but I do love these socks. I do want to get them finished. So what's that? 3 pairs of socks to work on. Okay. Oh yeah, here we are then. Another pair of socks. This one isn't even on any needles. So the yarn for this is West Yorkshire Spinners, Signature 4-ply, Zandra Rhodes series, and this colourway is the Forest Stripes 1026. I started on these just as a pair of vanilla socks just to work on, and then wanted the needles for something else, had other socks or other things that needed to be knitted for other people or for other reasons, so these kind of just got to put one to one side. Haven't even got a bag to put these in properly yet either. So another pair of socks. They're really not exactly high, what's the word I want? They're not exactly high priority. Just looking at the state of me as well. Do you know what? There's part of me that wants to stop and go and put some makeup on and sort my hair. I just look a bit of a mess, don't I? Oh dear. I do feel okay, honestly. I just look a mess, so please forgive me for looking a mess. Okay, I think this is another pair of socks. Oh yes, now you've never seen these before. These are a pattern. I can't remember the name of the pattern. These are lovely, but these were a mystery sock along that I got involved in. Must have been in 2020, because 2021 was the year of the rainbow socks. 2020 I was on a Ravelry board for, might have been UK, or it could have just been it was definitely a group board that was all about knitting socks, and they ran make-alongs every month, and they had some brilliant ideas for make-alongs, and this one was like a mystery make-along. So I can't remember if the pattern was for free or if I paid for the pattern, but it was released in Clues, and it was lovely, and it's also got beads on it. Look at this, absolutely gorgeous. And can you see the beads? So it's got the beads, so pretty. Cannot remember, I will link the details. Now the problem is this did have also an unusual heel construction, so you've got to concentrate on what you're doing. It's got an unusual heel construction. I have no idea what to call it, this heel construction. But this is the heel flap. It's got cables down the back. And then, so I can't remember kind of where I've got up to or anything with this sock. So I have a feeling what I think I'm going to have to do is put these onto a holder of some sort and start the second sock, perhaps working from, or wind off, I don't know, another 30 grams or something, and then start the second sock, and then do the heel construction right from the beginning, excuse me, so that I can then work out where I got to in this sock. It is so lovely. I absolutely want to finish this. Absolutely want to finish it. Now the yarn was from Knit Crate, and it's Knitology Super Sock. The colourway is Gibbous Moon, 75% merino, 25% nylon. It is very, very soft, and it is from Knitology, which is a Knit Crate yarn. It is really very soft for 75-25. I've got all the beads here. So stitch markers, all sorts. So I really do want to carry on with this project. It is absolutely amazing pattern. Obviously takes concentration. I cannot even remember how I attached the beads. I've obviously stopped doing the beads once it got onto the foot, but I think the best thing to do will be to start it again from scratch for the second sock, and then carry on with this one once I get to the same point. So that is a lovely pattern, lovely sock. It is from, as I say, I'm pretty sure it's from November 2020. In fact, yeah, there it is, November. Oh, I didn't put a date in, but it is, I know it's November 2020. The pattern is by Dabbles, and it's, I don't know how you pronounce this, Agna, Qel'a. I mean, that's what they will look like when they're finished. Absolutely beautiful. It was from the Sock Knitters Anonymous group in Ravelry, and it's to do with Avatar. That's where the name comes from, to do with Avatar. So yeah, I think I got to about clue 3. So needs working on. I think I probably stopped working on it because of Christmas would be my guess. It's just lovely, and the colour is beautiful. I really, really, really want to work on those. So what's that? Sock number 5? 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. So this is 5 pairs of socks that are WIPs. 5 pairs of socks. Okay. So what else these working on? This is the Stitch on Sunday blanket, designed by Kelly Menzies, and this was something that I'm knitting for my parents-in-law, and it's a blanket that you knit in squares. I'm knitting it in Serdar Special DK, not Serdar, Stylecraft Special DK in various colours. Followers of the podcast, you know then that I've started working on this, I think at the beginning of this year. I think I've done about 12 squares, maybe not as many as that. And I kept saying that I was going to get it finished by Christmas, and yeah, hasn't happened quite clearly. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, so I was on 12 squares. I'm on number 13. Really want to finish this. I have all the yarn for it, so it is one that I can say, you know, I need to finish this as a priority project, rather than just kind of going, oh, I'll knit on it as and when. I have all the yarn, I have all the pattern, so I do need to aim to at least do maybe a square a week. There are 40 squares in total. If I worked on that a square a week, what's that? I could get it done in 3 or 4 months. The trouble with it is lovely, and it will be a really beautiful blanket. Every square is different though, and they're all lace patterns, so it's not a quick knit. It's not something where you just pick it up and crack on with it, because the first couple of repeats of the pattern you're having to concentrate. So that's probably why it's taken me longer to do. Okay, what else have we got? Aha! Another pair of socks. This one, I think, if it's right, yes, this is my own design. Oh, hang on, no it's not. It's not my own design. This, oh dear, I've forgotten about these. There's a story behind these as well. These are, aren't they amazing, Star Trek socks that I started for my husband. And I finished the first one and asked him to try it on, and he couldn't get it on because the colour work was too tight. Isn't that amazing? So I need to frog this and knit it with larger needles. Now my plan is, I haven't actually frogged it, is because the plan is I'm actually going to frog it and knit from this end of the yarn, so that I'm not trying to untangle all of this colour work. Look at it all. Hours and hours and hours of work. And I don't know if you can see, I used a black sparkly yarn. So what did I use? Oh, that's not the right one. Let's come out of there. So I used this, which I think is from Wool and the Gang. Yeah. Glitter ball sock yarn. Night Fever navy, so technically it's a navy blue. Get groovy with our glitter ball sock yarn, made from British wool with an extra bit of sparkle. 95% blue faced Leicester and 5% Lurex, so it's got no nylon in it actually. And then this yellow is a Signet, probably wool rich, truly wool. 75% wool, 25% polyamide. So I would love, these were supposed to be a Christmas present a couple of years ago, and of course you can imagine I was worried that it wasn't going to fit, so I took away the surprise element and said, can you try it on? And he couldn't get it on, and I was so upset. So I need to look again at what I did, what size needles I used, etc., and go up a needle size basically. Oh, absolutely gutting, absolutely gutted. The pattern for that I think is just called Star Trek Socks. Obviously I will leave the information below. There's a free pattern as well on Ravelry. And there's 2 charts, so you can either do the Federation chart, which is what I'm doing, Star Trek Federation, or not Star Trek Federation. What's it called? Just Federation? Or you could do the Klingon symbol, because my plan originally had been that I would do both. That's not going to happen, is it? Okay, I know there is another pair of socks somewhere as well, but it's probably hidden in with another bag that I'm going to open in a minute. Okay, so what else have we got? Yeah, so I think there's maybe 2 different projects in this bag. Right, okay, yes. So if you are a follower of the podcast, you will have seen these socks before. I've been started working on these in April this year, and they're my own design. And they're the full steam ahead socks. Not really sure. Oh, I was just doing them with shorties as well. Cute. So I really should get this one finished and the pattern written up and released for the spring. That would be good, wouldn't it, actually? So yeah, I should make that a relative priority so I can get the pattern written up, get it into testing, and then release it for spring. That would be good. So there's the plan for those socks. Get them written up and tested. And also in here are, these are from 2 years ago, just so rubbish. These are some little cotton, supposed to be face scrubbies, that I was just using some old Serta cotton to use up. They were kind of either frog it or finish it project. Right, what else? What else indeed? This I found the other day, and oh my goodness, the wool is all completely screwed. Come on. Right, I think this is going to be frogged. This was a pattern that was gifted to me, but if I'm honest, Flora's cap. If I'm really honest, I don't think it's my cup of tea. Don't think it will suit me really. I think I was gifted both the yarn and the pattern many years ago in a swap. Now what I need to do is just be honest about it and say I don't particularly like the pattern, as nice as it was for somebody to give it to me. The yarn is lovely. Don't know what it, I can't see a ball band, but the cap will just be like this, and it's just I think in moss stitch, so it's not terribly interesting to knit either. So I think I just have to be honest with myself. Feels like this has got bamboo in it. Maybe it's a cotton and bamboo mix. So I think this actually needs frogging. And the yarn used for something else. Right, we're nearly there. We are nearly there. Another big project. Now, this is a WIP that really I would love to finish in the next year. It may take a bit longer. This is the Queen of Hearts blanket. I showed you this a couple of months ago when I was having a stash sort out. I came across this whole blanket kit basically. I would like to work on this blanket again. Whether I'll get it finished in the space of 1 year, I don't know. But it needs working on. Talking of blankets though, a recent blanket that I was working on was the Cablemagoria, which was a knit along. You have seen this. This is one of the quickest blankets I think that I can get finished. Out of all the blankets I've got on the go, I could get this one finished, and then if I get this one finished I can allow myself to cast on another blanket, and that will be the Anthology Throw. But if I'm really honest, I have a feeling I will get the Anthology Throw cast on before Christmas because I so want to knit that. Oh dearie me. So yeah, Cablemagoria blanket. You have seen that before, so I'm not going to show it to you again, bore you with it. And then the last one is the Cable Crush hoodie, which is a lovely pattern by Knitatude. And I cast this on in April, and I really would like to finish this. Really would like to concentrate and get this finished. It's a hoodie, sort of cropped. I don't think I'll make it cropped, but I won't make it too long either though. So it's a hoodie with these lovely cables. I'm knitting it in Manos de Uruguay Maxima, which is a worsted weight. Looks like it's much thicker than that, but it is only worsted weight, and it is so soft and fluffy, and it is going to be really warm and squidgy. So I can't cast on, as much as I really still want to do my WIP more, can't cast on my WIP more or any other sweater, cardigan, etc. till that is done. And those are going to be my rules that I'm setting myself for those are going to be my rules that I'm setting myself for my WIP challenge for next year. Is any new cast-ons in January have to be when something else has been cast off. The other challenge that I would like to set myself next year, because I've got so much stash, the other challenge I'd like to set myself, knitting challenge, is to have knitted more to basically got more out of my stash than I've brought in. Yeah, that's going to be a difficult challenge for me. So my plan there is to try and keep track of what I buy or get, and keep track of what I use, and the plan there is to try and use more. I'm not sure yet whether I think I'm going to do it in grams. I think I'm going to do it in weight. So 100 grams of 4-ply, 100 grams of chunky, whatever. 100 grams of DK. I think I'm going to do it in grams. So yes, that is another plan, is to use more of my stash than I buy new this year or next year. So I think that is it. I know those are not completely all my WIPs, although that is pretty much most of them. So I don't know where the Yarndale socks have gone. They seem to have disappeared. There is a cardigan I started. Excuse me, there was a cardigan I started quite a few years ago, but actually that needs frogging. I still want to knit that cardigan, but I think I stopped because I realised either my gauge was completely off or I was knitting it in the wrong size, can't remember which, but I knew that it wasn't going to fit me. So it needs starting from scratch. And I'll either knit that cardigan again, or I will use the yarn still for a cardigan. And there is somewhere as well a brown sweater. I think it's an Aran sweater that I started knitting for my husband, and same thing, I wasn't 100% sure about if it was going to fit him or not. So I think those are the only other two things that I can think of that are definite WIPs that I would. Obviously I've got a couple of other blankets, like the Battenberg blanket, Granny Square stripes, things like that. They are ongoing projects. I don't really count them as WIPs, as in that I've got a completion date or challenge, because I use scraps and minis and things like that for them. But yeah, what I've shown you today, I would like to have all of those finished next year. Everything I've shown you on screen, I would like to have finished next year, and if I don't finish them next year, then they need frogging, they need to go. Yeah. Okay, so listen, my lovely people, it is a week to go to Christmas. As we know, my knitting is slowed right down because of my fingers. I'm hoping that I will get some more stuff worked on this week, because I break up from school on Tuesday. Tuesday's my last day, so Wednesday, Thursday, Friday before Christmas rush. Obviously there's lots to do in the house, but I would like to be able to, so I'm going to try and record next week next weekend, either Christmas Eve early in the morning or on Friday afternoon. If my finger and thumb are up for it, then I'm hoping I will have caught up with the Advent wrap. I still don't think, as I say, I don't think Lewis the Owl is going to get worked on, and don't think my mum's gloves will get worked on. So it'll probably be finishing off Amelia's hat, working on the Advent wrap. Those will be my two main focuses. So thank you for joining me this afternoon. I hope you've enjoyed what you've seen. I hope I've inspired you maybe to dig out some WIPs, and you'll join in with the WIP make along when we start that in the new year. Alright guys, thanks for watching, and I will see you again soon. Bye.